Hi, thanks for tuning in to Turn to the Stars. My name is Andrea Klim, and I'm an astrological counselor and a core shamanic practitioner from the local area. And I just want to say thank you for watching Turn to the Stars. We appreciate all your support. And today we have a really interesting topic, thinking ahead, thinking about what's coming and the influences. And I have a really special guest joining me to talk about, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, Jupiter enters Cancer, and that's starting June 25th next week till July 16th. So my guest today is Sheila Clark. Welcome, Sheila.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for having me.
Sheila is really, she is an astrology counselor as well, as amongst a great medium, and I know she does quite a few other different modalities of healing as well. So I'm really pleased to have her here to discuss this really interesting topic. And it is since the Jupiter takes a 12-year cycle, and so it would stay for about a year in one constellation. And as you can see on the screen, it's about to enter into the constellation of Cancer, and it hasn't been there since 2001. And in this sign, it is exalted. Jupiter is primarily about exploration. It is about our knowledge. It's about the truth, and it expands on anything that it touches. And so for the next year, we'll be expanding on the energy of Cancer, which is about nourishing and mothering and caring for each other. And so it will remain in this constellation until July 16th of 2014, expanding the search and research for more knowledge of the family and our roots and how we care for each other. Jupiter's influence to us is as the teacher. Its energy influences and offers wisdom, compassion, and the need for expansion and learning. And in the sign of Cancer, it brings to mind the mother, or the way that we receive nurturance. Our mother and or the way we received nurturance is our first teacher. I think most of you would agree with that. And our most important teacher. So it is very important to note that Jupiter's journey through this constellation of Cancer will also relate quite strongly with foreign mothers, other lands, immigrants, which connects us with a culture different from that where we were born. That it is very strong influence of Jupiter. So also cities and nations are also of a Cancerian concept, and Jupiter in Cancer will tend to elevate, expand, and improve society. And one of the big things that I feel is that it will influence the safety in the family, in our cities, in our schools, and in our colleges. Also, the laws to protect them are also themes. Are very big themes of Jupiter in Cancer, and of course the current world situation with the events that have occurred, such as in Boston, London, Cleveland, in the streets of Buenos Aires daily, the situation in Venezuela, Syria. Will see an overall heightened increase this summer in our security systems. And Sheila has been so great to do some real research into the last time that Jupiter was in Cancer, and so I'm gonna, we're gonna open that up for conversation about Jupiter and some historical events.
Well, thank you, Andrea. What I'd like to do first, I'd like to take everyone back to revisit this energy of 2001 to 2002. And as you had mentioned, that's the last time Jupiter had entered into protective, family-oriented, nurturing, albeit secretive, the cardinal water constellation of Cancer. During this time, there were a lot. I really, as I started researching, came across so many historical occurrences. The last time Jupiter did move through Cancer. Just prior to that, I should mention George W. Bush was inaugurated as our president right just prior to that, who is under a Cancer sun with Leo rising.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the big event, the major event that took place certainly during that time was the 9/11 attacks. In 2001, 9/11, 2001. Almost 3,000 people were killed that day in the time that followed. Following that, on September 15th, the Queen Isabella Causeway in Texas collapsed after being hit by a tugboat. September 18th, a series of more anthrax attacks.
Yeah, I remember.
October 9th, more anthrax attacks. One of the things that took place later after this devastating attacks on America as a nation, on December 2nd, Enron filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The euro entered into currency. And last but not least, the dwarf planet Quasar was discovered. Now, I just wanted to comment on these. As tragically heartrending as these events were, they certainly tore at our heartstrings and our collective soul.
Mm-hmm.
A collective bond, a cohesive bond of cooperation, nurturing sensitivity, emotionalism, and caring redeveloped, redefined, and re-intensified in America as a result of this. This seemed to hold us strong to the vision of standing together as a connected unit, as a family, as a partnership. While Cancer gave us this ability to connect internally, through the nurturing and sensitivity and the energy of her cardinal tenacity, forced us to join together in this common yet united bond as a whole unit.
Mm-hmm.
The initiating faith and confidence of Jupiter forced us into a resolve to action and to protect our soul's immediate and future existence.
Yes.
And to move forward in a cautious but confident manner.
Yeah, it really it did all of those things. It was devastating at first, and however, the United States birth chart, which we can put on the screen, there we can see it right there, is a birth chart that was created at the time of the birth of the United States, which was July 4th, 1776. And you can see over on the right-hand side of this chart that there is the planet Venus, the planet Jupiter, the Sun, and Mercury, and part of Fortune, all in Cancer. So we are a very nurturing country. We are a country that really does protect the the value of the American family, of the family as a unit. So pointing out what Sheila just was talking about was the great ability that we have as a country to nurture each other and nurture others. We're known for that. Right. And but we were born while the moon was in Aquarius, which is the uniting of the states, and how we come together as a collective, as a whole, in times of tragedy. So I did note too that I looked back to 1989, which was the time, 12 years prior to 2001. And I noted that, July 30th of 1989 was when Jupiter entered Cancer.
Right.
And at that time, there were most major banks cut their prime rate to 10.5%. In September, there was Hurricane Hugo, which hit the Carolinas, causing extensive property damage. In October, International Association of Machinists strike the Boeing. In November and October, there was an earthquake measuring 7.1 on the Richter, which hits the San Francisco Bay Area. And Cancer is the sign also of the earth, of the mother. And so we see this, and you know, and Sheila brought up the point about it being a cardinal sign, and cardinal means that there's some type of activity that is present, and that there's movement. And through Cancer, the tendency is to nurture, to care for. And so it is interesting now that, you know, we can look at a chart with which is the U.S. birth chart, with a transiting chart showing Jupiter entering Cancer on June 25th. So there is that chart on the screen right at this time, and we can see on this chart that Cancer is over right about 3 o'clock on the outer wheel. We see Jupiter at 00 Cancer in the constellation. And we were, you know, looking at this because it is such a long cycle. A year is a pretty long cycle for, you know, this is one of our outer planets. So its influence is very important, and Jupiter is known to be benefic in its influence.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you know, we see Jupiter in this chart, that it's uniting with Venus, which brings into focus the children in our relationships. And you know, I think one of the big focus that we're going to see with Jupiter transiting through Cancer is a focus on the security of our children, and how much we value our children and their safety. And I think that you'll see lots and lots of concentration by the United States on protecting our children, on providing much more safety in the school systems. I thought that when I saw this chart. Did you have anything that you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, I absolutely, as I was researching a lot of this, I absolutely had some thoughts as to our future with our children as well, as we go through this, the nurturing of our nation. Our children are our nation.
Yeah, they are our future. Right, and they are so important, and that we shouldn't lax, and that we shouldn't get too comfortable, because you know, this chart, it does show some very some obstacles that we are working at overcoming. You know, we know that over the course of the next year, Jupiter is going to be having a strong influence on our relationships in the country, amongst ourselves, but also relationships with other lands.
Absolutely.
And our, you know, our status, so to speak, who we are as a country. Our financial systems are very much under the microscope at this time. And you know, and also our banks, our lending institution, our investments companies, our insurance companies, our mortgage companies, because Jupiter will move all that, you know, it will transit the whole right side of that chart, which is about how we relate, how we interact, but also, you know, are recuperating from what we've been experiencing.
Exactly. The nurturing of ourselves as a collective.
Yes, very much so. We do, one of the things that we do have coming up is Mercury Retrograde period between June 26th and July 20th. And that is begins at 23 degrees of Cancer. And Mercury Retrograde is a time where I look at it as that we get to take a second look at some of the decisions that we would like to make, or that we've made. And so that is actually going to start, as I said, it starts at 23 Cancer. And that constellation goes back to 13 Cancer. So what that's going to look like is really, here we are, a lot of talk about investments and banking and lending institutions, and lots of talk about the our relationships with other country. And I heard something on the news just yesterday about Barack Obama, our president, and some of the investigations that he's done that have come to light. And also, so Mercury retrograde is about researching, revisiting, redoing, and Sheila said this to me some time ago in a conversation. It provides a means to a better end.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and is there anything that you want to add on that Mercury retrograde?
Yes, I thought I would add to, during this time, we have a lot of water energy at the same time, in the same element. I just wanted to add, just take care in the way we express ourselves. Express ourselves carefully, because everybody is going to be feeling this wonderful, sensitive, emotive energy, but keep in mind that the sensitivity, the water element, is going to drive the energy.
Yeah, it truly is. And we do have some really exciting things that Sheila and I were talking about that are occurring this summer, because we do have, there is such a watery influence, meaning sensitivity is going to be heightened this summer. It really is going to be heightened, and we're going to be talking about this on another show, but we will be seeing a Star of David between the elements of water and earth, and that is a spectacular sight to see in a chart. So we'll be talking about that on another show, but it is a very positive influence, which is going to heighten everybody's sensitivity.
Absolutely.
So, you're feeling sensitive, you can bet that your friend is feeling sensitive too, and the people that you're relating to. And one of the things that I did note that as Mercury travels from through the area that it is in the chart, that back to taking us back in time, so to speak, I think of it as a time period where we get a prescription. So if there's something that's not right inside, the logic, the reason, the information that we need in order to fix it or to resolve it or to understand it gets provided for during that Mercury retrograde. Again, June 26th through July 20th. And what I did see with that Mercury retrograde is that it's setting off a square from Sun to Saturn in the U.S. birth chart. And on a personal level, Mercury retrograde in Cancer can create annoyances at home with household duties, so you're aware of that. It may force you to revisit and make repairs to projects that weren't done correctly. Overall, we'll find ourselves talking about the things we want to change with our security systems, our banking institutions, our investments, and by the time we draw close to July 20th, our family relationships and how we as families relate to each other, you'll find that nurturing and expressing nurturance and care and concern for others is going to be ideally the best way to manage this time, and being understanding and compassionate.
Exactly.
Right. So
I had made a note here as well, Andrea, the psychic and healing potential of this energy as well, and developing further awareness of our own intuitive abilities.
Yes, right. I agree. I agree with that, because Jupiter in Cancer, Jupiter expands on anything it touches. So, and Cancer is one of the signs that we know, being water, that is extremely sensitive. And psychic, intuitive. The feeling is really the overall most important thing to this energy.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a very good point.
Yes.
Yeah.
I so agree. That was like major.
And you know what? I also felt that home care companies they may find new, better ways during Mercury retrograde. So anything that you are thinking about which has to do with the home or the family, this is the time to research it, revisit it, take a look at it, think it through. Anything you start or make a decision on while Mercury's retrograde, well, you'll have to revisit it again. That's very typical. It's very normal to have that. So it is in your best interest to avoid that if possible, so that you're not in that redo stage. But sometimes we have no choice, and so if you understand that if you make a decision during Mercury retrograde, that it will be one that you'll have to take another look at
later.
Exactly. So and one of the things that we wanted to talk about was some of the influences of the Jupiter moving through Cancer to the United States. And while we were researching, I came across a date, August 20th, of which we have a chart. And I noticed that there was a lot of there was some very challenging, kind of, even tumultuous energy, which I've listed on the screen. This is a chart of August 20th, 2013. And what we see Mars opposite Pluto, which at best is a difficult string of energy. And Uranus squaring the Sun, Saturn squaring the North and the South nodes. What we're talking about here is very challenging and difficult at best. And however, we all know that we are moving through some difficult times. The moon is conjunct the United States moon, meaning that there will be a strong need to pull together at this time. Mars is in conjunct the moon, Venus square Jupiter. So just our only point is to beware of this date, that there are some challenges that we're going to be facing. But nothing that we can't as a nation overcome collectively together. Is there anything you wanted to add on that?
I just wanted to again point out the uncomfortable energy, that's coming to us, and basically uncomfortable, but I so agree. It isn't anything that we can't overcome with this expansive energy, Cancer and Jupiter and Cancer energy. Yes.
And it is, we just thought that it would be wise to point it out, but also wise to point out the collectively and the unitedness of the United States, and how important that is as well. And I know we're getting closer to the last 5 minutes of the show, and we did want to talk about Barack Obama, our president, and show some of the influences to him as Jupiter transits the constellation of Cancer. And you see that chart on the screen. If you look down at the bottom right, which is probably about 4 or 5 o'clock on the outer ring, you can see Jupiter at 00 Cancer, which it really sits right on top of Venus and Barack Obama's chart. And I think what you're going to see with Barack Obama is that he will be concentrating on the safety of our children and the American family. And that because he was born with that Venus in Cancer, naturally this means that, the glue that binds him together is what he values most is his family. And he is very nurturing and expresses a great need to nurture and care for his children and the children of the world. And you see it even in his love life. Right, and his love life, that he's also very nurturing and caring, and would likely express that openly. But I know we're getting very close to the end of the show, but I do want to point out that you'll see him acting on his feelings. And his strong love for the family as a whole, and that he'll be noticed for his extensive research into creating new avenues to ensure the safety of our children. And he does have a grand trine in water in his birth chart, and what that means is that he's very compassionate, he's very sensitive, and he has a depth of sensitivity, and he does have a great compassion for education, and he believes in the freedom of expression and the expression of our religious or spiritual beliefs. So this is going to be an important year for him, and you're going to see him acting out of his emotions and his feelings on the things that he truly believes in. I did have a lot more notes, but I think before the end of the show, we just want to really quickly touch on some of the things that we can do to work with this energy. And John's saying there's 1 minute left. So, but what I would say is take a good look at how you relate to your own family and your caregiving toward them. Explore what makes you feel safe and cared for, and act on expanding those areas. Did you want to add some things, Sheila?
I just wanted to say I feel the energy will be highly opportunistic, especially to water signs, but deeply sensitive at the same time. Energy will also be oriented towards initiating confidence and tenacity and encouraging us to grow beyond the now.
That is perfect, and I what more could you ask for? So I do want to say to everyone, thank you so much for watching Turn to the Stars, and I hope that Jupiter's transit through Cancer does expand your awareness of nurturing and how you nurture yourself, how you nurture others, how you value your family, and so forth. And thank you, Sheila, for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you coming here to share your knowledge with our viewers. And thank you, everyone, for watching Turn to the Stars. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Take good care.